Sefer. All right, we continue going along in Sefer Halikutim, Tzemach Tzedek, the volume which has the letter Aleph, and we are currently up to page Tuf Kuf Tes Zayin, which would be the equivalence of 516. We're on the second paragraph there. And again, this is, of course, as always, from the Tzemach Tzedek. V'shoyresh hamshacha zoy, and the root of this godly flow, this drawing down of this energy, who it is, mibechina umadrega gavoya, from an aspect or a level which is very high, derech nefilas ha'or, by way of the falling of the godly light, bishviras hakelim. So again, that acronym, we've had it a number of times, bishviras hakelim, in the breaking of the vessels, referring to the level where the world of toihu, of chaos, completely breaks, and then the holy sparks fall all the way down, etc. Uche ma'amar razal. This is actually an acronym within an acronym. Uche ma'amar, and like the statement, razal, which stands for Rabbeinu Zichroinam Livracha, our rabbis of blessed memory. So there's a statement made by the great rabbis. My ta'ama, so memtes, an acronym, my ta'ama, which is Aramaic for what is the reason? Ize maska beresha, that the goats go in front, vahadar imre, and afterwards the sheep. The reason is kivriyasoi shel oilam, like the creation of the world. All right, shin ayin shel oilam, like the creation of the world. That is bereisha, at first, hashoicha, it is dark, vahadar, and afterwards nahira, it is light. In other words, we know that in creation, as it says in Bereshis, in Genesis, that when Hashem created the world, it says this by each day, Vayehi erev, and there was evening, Vayehi voiker, and there was morning. At first came evening, and then came morning. So in other words, first comes the dark, that's the order of things, that's the nature of how Hashem made it, that first it's dark, and then comes the light. Okay? Shebechinas imre, that the aspect of the imre, the sheep, nikroim nehoira, they're called light, bright. Vihu, and now it's a play on the word, so to say. And this is al derech, ayin dalid, al derech, along the same lines, he'emarta vehemircha. Okay, so we find that there's a verse that says, you have chosen, that the Jewish people have chosen Hashem to be theirs, and Hashem has chosen you, the Jewish people, as Hashem Elokecha he'emarta, and Hashem he'emircha. So that's that word which seems to be associated with Imre, and Shenikraim Nahira Imre. So we find that light can be called Imre, because in the context of that verse, the Jewish people have chosen Hashem to be theirs, meaning to be their light and their strength, etc. And Hashem likewise has chosen the Jewish people to be his beloved, but again, the idea of his light and chosen. Aval, however, Umot haOlam, the nations of the world, mikablim, receive, mi bechinas bereisha chashoicha. They're getting from the aspect of the beginning is dark. So as we will explain more, the nations of the world do get at the beginning. They are in the forefront. But the order of creation and the order of nature is that the beginning is dark. Vihu, and this is Kimamar Razal, like the statement of Razal, our rabbi's of blessed memory. Kama erech apayim, how much patience, or literally length of anger, meaning it takes him so long to get angry, lefanav, before him, chule, etc. In other words, Hashem has so much patience, referring to all of the sinners, the nations of the world which are going against his will, and he does not immediately exercise retribution and does not punish them for so many, many years and so many, many generations. He has such patience. V'lachein, and therefore, mikablim, they receive, sheloi alpi cheshboin umida. They're not receiving according to a calculation of what they deserve, or according to a measurement, v'diktuk, or specifications, or exact klal at all. In other words, they receive an abundance, they get lots of life, lots of happiness, and an abundance of good, of wealth, of physical things, etc., not according to their behavior, not according to what they deserve. Vihu, and this is b'derech, in a way of nefilas ha'or, of the falling of the light, hashpa chitzonis, that it's an external flow of godly energy. So meaning to say that the nations of the world, which are so prosperous and so successful and have it so good, it's not that they deserve it, but they are receiving this godly energy and all of these blessings, if you will, in a way which has nothing to do with what they deserve, but it's all external, and it's all part of the beginning being dark. And this godly light fell like the breaking of the vessels. So even though in source it's very high, and it's first, Toyu precedes Tikkun. Like we said, Esav, Edom, precedes and is actually born before Yaakov. So he's in the source, he's actually on a higher level, but it falls down, and these holy sparks end up coming all the way down in a very external way.
So the beginning being dark is referring to from
Klipa. It's the Klipa.
What?
It's Klipa.
Nothing to do with Tohu.
It's the nefila, the falling of Tohu.
Tohu, okay.
Masha Ein Kain. Again, the acronym Memshin Aleph Chaf. Masha Ein Kain, which is not the case, B'sitra de Kedusha, in the side of Kedusha, of holiness. Shemekablim, that the holy ones, meaning the Jewish people, basically, receive chayus, vitality, migilui oir pnei havaya, from the revelation of the light of the, literally translated, face of Hashem, Yud Kei Vav Kei. But the word pnei, we always say, what does it mean, his face? It comes from the same exact word as pnimius, which means internal, the true, the deeper one, as opposed to the chitzoyni, which is the external, the superficial. Bibechinas, in a aspect of chachma ila'a, the supernal, higher level of the Sphira, the first of the 10, called chachma. So since in Kedusha, we receive through this channel of chachma, shenikra cheshboin, that chachma is actually referred to as cheshboin. We said that the nations of the world, they receive without, not according to any calculation of what they deserve. Chachma is actually a calculation of what one earns, what one deserves, etc. K'mashakasuv, as the verse states, Einecha brachos b'cheshboin chuli, that your eyes are receiving blessing according to the calculation. V'lachein, and therefore, the verse states, all right, this is in the book of Leviticus, the beginning of Parshas B'chukoisai. It says, Im b'chukoisai teilechu, if you will go in my laws, in my statutes, if you keep my commandments, if you study my Torah, chuli, etc., then v'nosati gishmechem chuli, I will give you rain, etc. Meaning, Hashem makes a clear condition. He tells the Jewish people, if you learn my Torah, if you stick to my commandments, and you go on the straight and narrow, and you behave and you do what you're supposed to do, then I will give you your rain and all of your material and physical needs. Vihu, and this, or it is, inyan koisi. This is the idea of koisi, which means lashon tachoisu al haseh, which actually means to count, which is again coming up. It's relevant because the Paschal offering, the Korban Pesach, that it says tachoisu al haseh, that you are to count for the sheep. Talking about the Paschal offering, that whenever the Paschal offering was brought in advance, they had to have registered individuals in the group. Every group had to be accounted for, and every individual that was part of each animal had to be registered in that group, and that's called tachoisu, meaning that it is bechinas minyan v'cheshboin. So it's the idea of accountability and accounting, that according to what the person deserves is what they get. That's how it is in Kedusha. Mipnei, and this is because Sheliyos Keli, to be a vessel, Legilui, for the revelation, or Ein Soif, of the infinite light of Hashem himself, Bifnimis, in an internal way, in order for an individual to receive and be a proper receptacle and a vessel for the infinite light of Hashem, Sarich Lihiyos, needs to be Bitul Hayesh, the nullification of the self, of the arrogance, ego, and all that, as we discussed. V'dachyusa de garmei, and the smashing, the crushing of oneself. And one does that if they negate themselves, they suppress their being, and then they are proper vessel for the true being and to be able to receive from Hashem. Avala klipos, however, the klipos, the impure, the outer shells, nikroim nedivim, they are called the generous ones, the ones that give. K'moishe kasuv, as the verse states, al tivtechu, do not trust, binedivim chuli, in the generous donors, etc. K'moishe kasuv bazoyar, as it says in the Zohar, shenikroim nedivim, they are called nedivim, generous donors or givers. Begin such the ruach mesoava, that the spirit of impurity, ihu is damein, it is present or prevalent, tadir, constantly, b'magana, in freedom, in free, uvirekanya, and in emptiness, uvli dachyusa, and without cleanliness, mashpiyim tamid, they're constantly giving all the time hirhurim royim chuli, evil thoughts. vashpas gashmis, and an abundance of physical needs. In other words, when you're dealing with klipa, so there's a constant flow, and they're always giving. And since klipa is negativity, so it's giving evil thoughts to the person nonstop or constantly. And likewise, it's all the same system that the individual is receiving, also an abundance of physical needs, of sustenance, of life, of health, of wealth, you name it. It's all because it is not according to the cheshbon, according to the calculation, and according to what one deserves. It's just free. The hu inyan, and this is the idea, ma'amar razal, of the statement of the rabbis, hakoyrei bisfarim achitzoinim, one who reads, literally translated, the external books, ein lo chelik lo'olam haba, has no share in the world to come. All right, this is a statement made in the Talmud that if a Jew reads outer books, external books, secular books, he has no share in the world to come. Now, says the Tzemach Tzedek, Peirush Sfarim Achitzoinim. What is the meaning of these secular books? Hein Ayin Sphirois de Noiga. So this is the the spiritual source of the klipa. Second, give me a second here. Sorry, this is the Eser Sphirois. This is the 10 Sephirois. Of Noiga. So just like in Kedusha we said there are 10 Sphirois, so too in Klipa, it's just the Klipa has the 10th one, and then they have the 11th one as well. So in Noiga, in this intermediate state of the Sphirois, which are not all, it's not all evil, it's the middle one, that has 10 Sphirois. Sfarim the Kedusha. Just as there are the books of holiness, so too there are the books of Itzoinim, of the external ones, which is Noiga. Gimel Sfarim Niftachin Beresh Hashana. For instance, in the side of holiness, of Kedusha, it says that there are 3 books that are opened in the heavenly court on Rosh Hashanah. K'moi Kain, so too, Yesh Bilu'umas is there is in the opposite, not in Kedusha, in the Klipa, Ha'eser Sphirois de Noiga, the 10 Sphirois of Noiga. The Izdaman, Tadir, that are constantly available, and they're always ready. Umafte, and they seduce Livnei Noyach, to the Bnei Noyach, sorry, Lebar Nash probably, Lebar Nash to people, to the humans, Bechama Pituyin, with many, how should I say, enticing them, enticements, with all sorts of trying to convince them to give in to desires. But lo yagra, and it's for free, without any pay. Ve'anis levarnash lemishrei alechuli, and it is forcing the people to have it, the klipa, come down and reside on them. etc. And this is the idea of what it says that the Jewish people complained and they said, Zocharnu es hadaga, we remembered the fish, asher noichal b'mitzrayim, that we ate in the land of Egypt, chinam, chuli, for free. What does that mean for free? What are they talking about? They're saying that we didn't have to pay for fish? That's what they remember? So really what it's talking about is, since we were in the land of Mitzrayim, and there we were in Klipa, Mitzrayim is the idea of a very, very strong concealment over godliness. And spiritually, that was where the Jewish people were found when they were in the exile of Egypt. Therefore, anything that they did get, they didn't have to earn, but it was all chinam, it was all for free, not deserving. Aval ruach kudsha, but the spirit of holiness, lav hachi, not so. Ella, rather, biishtadlusa, it has to be with effort, v'dachyusa de garmei, and I think it's with the cleanliness of oneself. I mean, first I translated it with the crushing of oneself, but it either means with the crushing or with the purification, with the cleanliness of oneself. Uvireusa de liba, and again, this acronym, uvireusa de liba, and with the will, the positive desire of the heart for Hashem. V'levai the yishrei alechuli, and then, if only, Hashem will then reside upon them when the person makes his effort and tries to earn it and purifies himself. V'hainu, and meaning to say, liyois keli, to be a vessel, legilui alekus, for the godly revelation, bifnimis, in an internal way, efshar is impossible, bli dachyusa de garmei, without either cleansing oneself or smashing oneself, ubitul hayesh, and the nullification of self-arrogance, etc. So that's, again, it's the same theme that we're going through in different ways, but it's all about the explanation as to why Klipa receives the way they do. And just parenthetically, I know time is basically up, and there's another
few minutes.
There's another class coming up. Okay, we do actually find people have discussed this a lot in Chabad. We're trying to bring back non-observant, non-affiliated Jews to the fold. For many decades, the Rebbe Melech HaMashiach, has established Chabad houses, outreach, and sent emissaries. And it's a very, very interesting phenomenon that we find that people, when they're not observant, they don't keep Shabbos, for instance, and they make a lot of money, and they're very successful. And then it almost immediately, as soon as they become observant and they start keeping the commandments, they start keeping Shabbos, etc., all of a sudden they lose their money. It's like
they get tension.
It happens too many times for it to just be, so to say, coincidence. It's never coincidence, but it's like almost a pattern. It's like very strange. And the explanation that people suggested is just this, that while the person is living a life of klipa, so then, we're not talking about his intention. Of course, he didn't know better, but the fact is he's then receiving from klipa. A Jew who earns his money on Shabbos, it's coming through klipa. So therefore, it doesn't go according to the calculation of what he deserves, and he doesn't have to be humble. But a person who now is trying to do it according to the will of Hashem, and he's now learned the will of Hashem, and now he's trying to help self-negate and bittul, and so now it has to be according to what he deserves, and that's a whole different calculation there.
Wow, that's amazing. I love this. This is such a wonderful.
I had a personal story along that line. When I first opened my jewelry departments in Burlington, so I didn't do my shtar mechira for Shabbos was questionable. and it was killing me. So I went to Hirschler. That's all. Told me to do it, but so I went and I went and redid a Shtar Mechira, and I went to From Lawyer Goldsberg. It was Elliot Goldsberg. I did it the second I had the Shtar Mechira, kosher Shtar Mechira. Everything started going back up. So I mean, it was like everything. Fee what you deserve. I was doing it. I wasn't doing it right.
Yeah.
From a non-Jewish perspective, it's a kind of like a safety mechanism too. It reminds me of an Avodah Zarah where the Goyim, the nations, come before Hashem and say, "You never gave us any mitzvahs." And he gives them the mitzvahs of Sukkot, and then it becomes hot, and they're like, "Oh, forget this," and then they kick the sukkah down, and then you know that when they kick it, that's it. So
interesting, very good.
Well, thank you so much, Rabbi Turen. That was I love these classes, and we're starting to get a lot of I should say a whole lot, but we're starting to get traction with people that are just sharing them and liking them. So it's very good.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Turen, and thank you, Yossi, for joining.
No, thank you. I'm sorry I was late. Last week was my birthday, so I missed it.
Mazel tov.
Get up. So where do I find the
I'll send you a link.
Okay. Very good.
Yeah.
Okay, all the best.
Be well, all the best. Shvuah tov.
Shvuah tov.